Double bind.
Double bind.
Double bind.
Double bind.
Double bind.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to Double Bind. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Welcome to the state of blackness around the globe. And of course, we've been missing Boogs. He's been gone for 2 weeks. He is back from his short, Boogs, what should we call it? Furlough, vacation, break.
Let's call it hiatus.
Hiatus. That's a good word. Simple word.
That's a good word.
And of course, we've got Twaz coming in from Twaz. Where are you right now? Because you are always.
I'm on the East Coast right now. I'm on the East Coast.
But you don't even want to give
New York City, baby.
New York City.
New York City, baby. New York City. You want me to tell you, like, what studio I'm in? What undisclosed studio I'm in recording right now? Studio location.
And then we've got the master. We got Snead and Twaz coming in from Jersey as well. Welcome back to the podcast, gentlemen. Boogs, I just wanted to ask you really quickly. So how was your hiatus you went to Florida, correct?
Yeah, I went to Florida. I was there for almost a month. It was absolutely everything that I needed. It served the purpose of protecting my mental space, and it was just very freeing. And I know you guys are probably thinking, well, you were there during an election and Florida's a red state and Florida sucks, et cetera, et cetera. I was in the house with my family. I was protected. I wasn't, involved in any of that. I did see a lot of it taking place.
It's funny, Gene said, let's not get into politics, and we hopped right into it.
The motorcades of Trump supporters, just a slew of them, like 20 cars deep with American flags and Trump flags, like going down the highway and massive numbers. And I'm like, wow, like I feel like I'm stuck inside CNN right now.
Or would that be Fox News versus CNN?
It would be Fox News, but when CNN shows the highlight reels of what's happening right now. So that's what it felt like. And because I don't watch Fox. After the election and the results came out and those numbers and 55% of white women, Latino, Cubans, blah, blah, I was really perplexed because I didn't understand it. So I put it on my Instagram story and people were responding to me as to how or why they voted for that. So, for example, the Cubans who were fleeing, well, it would be the grandparents who would pass those sentiments down to their children, who were fleeing Fidel Castro. And now they're in America and they hear the Democrats, talk about free tuition, free healthcare, free. They hear socialism from Republicans, and that resonates with them because socialism, communism, they don't want that again in their lifetime or for their children. So they just hear that one buzzword and they think dictatorship and where they're fleeing from. So then they automatically vote against that. Now, it didn't make sense until I kind of heard that. So the racist rhetoric that Trump has, it gets a pass when they think about going back to Fidel Castro.
The wall, the separation of children, it was...
Yeah, the Latin vote, his Latin vote was up. You would think the Latin vote with the wall, it would help, they would have some reservations. But the whole, how the Democrats, our party, the consumer world Democrats are pro, inclusion, pro immigration status. For me to hear the Latin vote for Trump was up. I can't tell you the exact numbers, but it was significant.
It was significant enough. It was significant enough for me to raise my eyebrows and to actually see them in these Trump parades, hooting and hollering and waving their flags and T-shirts and it's just like, what? Am I in another dimension? Like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, so they dismissed all of his rhetoric and children in cages, et cetera, because they're like, none of that is worse than Fidel Castro. So let me not even think Democrat right now.
Yeah, they tie it with socialism. They're trying, I guess they're tying the Democrats with the socialist, communist dictatorship.
And then, second piece of that is proximity to whiteness. So, so Latinos, Cubans, they don't necessarily think of themselves as people of color and to be as far away from Black as possible. Oh, and then someone else also mentioned to me something really interesting too about Trump being unattractive. And the average Trump supporter or deplorable is not a smart person, let's just say, right? So they're not going to vote for, a Biden, a man that would have been attractive because they don't see themselves in that. They see themselves in a unattractive man like Trump. So because Trump is ugly,
I won't say he's unattractive, but he's very regular. But you know what? It's funny that you say that, Boogs, because like I've worked from the front of house to the back of house production, all these things. So I've kind of seen the ins and outs, and we are picked based on the market, like deliberately. Like, for example, you would rarely see me working in a place like Peoria, Illinois. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't have a large Black population, but name the large cities with the large Black populations. I would be booked for that, along with some of my Black colleagues. So I could definitely see how that would be a factor, because again, people want to see someone who represents them, you know, in whatever policies or whatever entities or institution or structure is in place. They definitely want to see themselves represented. So I wouldn't be surprised if regular looking folks sees themselves in Trump as well. The reason I wanted to ask you about that, if you don't mind sharing, it just made me think of a particular subtopic, which you guys didn't know I was going to discuss, but after learning why you went to Florida, it hit me. And I'm just going to make this broader, actually, than just Black men. But I think a lot of times in society, because men are supposed to be these pillars of strength and whatnot, your situation, because, you know, we talked and you said that you needed a break, like mentally you were just not in the best space, and then you needed to be around family and loved ones, which is very understandable. I think a lot of times people do not realize how, I won't say hard it is to be a man, but sometimes they forget that we are human beings too, and that we need breaks, and that we need to be able to take care of ourselves mentally. But there is a colleague of mine. There are times when we talk very often, and she's not the only one. There's other female friends of mine. Well, women in particular sometimes need access to men, in the sense of whether it's a friendship or something more intimate. And they sometimes forget that men go through shit. You know what I mean? Like, they forget that men can sometimes get tired, and sometimes men don't necessarily want to be a shoulder, an ear, or anything similar. So your situation kind of made me think about that. So do any of you kind of agree that sometimes people forget that men are human beings
I think it goes both ways. I think sometimes men forget women are human beings.
Twaz, take it. Right. Yeah. So Twaz, we'll have you take that first. Boogs, we'll have you jump in later. Let Twaz lead.
I just think it's a people thing. I mean, it's just sometimes people, men can sometimes forget that women are human and, don't always want to support, or, it's just, I think it's more of a people thing. I'm reluctant to just segregate that to men, women, forgetting men.
I'm speaking specifically on males though, because I think that's why I said I led with, I think people feel that men are these pillars of strength, or should be, and they shouldn't kind of feel the full emotional spectrum of the human experience. Oh, wow. Boogs.
I agree with that. I don't think we should feel the whole full spectrum of the emotional experience. We're men. We're supposed to, shoulder up. Crying and stuff when things get tough. We're supposed to be men.
Yeah, I agree with it too. I'm just thinking about all the things that we're told as young boys, and going into our early adulthood. We should be strong. We should be tough. We can't display weakness. We shouldn't cry. We shouldn't be emotional.
No sissies allowed.
No sissies allowed. Yeah, no wimps. And what does that mean? What does that do for the psyche of the man? Like, why we're not emotionally available to talk to a friend, or, in that example that you gave, listening to a woman who just wants to maybe share her thoughts and her opinions, and we may not be in a place to give it to her because our psyche's been warped with, where we're thinking, no, I'm not going to give you all of those things, because if I do, I'm going to be perceived as weak. I also think it's layered, though, as Twaz said, it's a people thing. And I think you have to be aware of transference. So what I mean by that is, if I'm going through something and I want to unpack what I have, and I call Twaz to unload my issue, my trauma, my whatever it is on him, I think I have to have a level of self-awareness that I could transfer my energy, my negative energy, because I am in a negative space right now, to Twaz. And that's unfair to him.
Some emotional vomiting, I call it.
Oh, that's a good one.
Emotional vomit. You know those people that call you sometimes as friends, sometimes as family, people we're close to, and you pick up that phone, and before we get a word in edgewise, they're just emotionally vomiting their shit. And
That'll
you're
be
like,
me.
oh, and it's like, and sometimes it's infectious, and sometimes it can get us up and boisterous and engaged, and we can go and back. Then sometimes it just brings you low, and you're like, why am I carrying this now? Right? Why am I carrying?
Yeah, I was just.
Folks don't
Snead,
realize.
I was just about to say. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Twaz and Boogs are hitting all of my points, so it's be a little bit redundant. You know how I feel about that. But I think people don't even realize just how heavy that is for the other person. Like how many, I'm sure you guys have your circle of friends outside of this group here. And, you know, they always call you with their stuff and they just put all their crap on you. And they don't even ask you about what you're going through or how are you doing? Because Nate Boogs said about transparency. It's very important because you have to be aware of what you're doing and how that affects that person you're dumping all your shit on. And if you don't, this is like, you know, you just walk away and then this person is left dealing with your stuff and their stuff. And it's just a continuation of the thing. I think people need to be more aware of what they're doing, what they're saying when they're conversing with other people.
Yeah. Is it like, would you have a disclaimer saying, hey, where are you right now? Are you in a good space? Because I need to unpack. Like it could be just something as simple as that.
That's a
right
good
before
way.
you get into
That's
it.
a good way
give
to
that
do it,
person the opportunity to say, you know what? No. Or you know what? Call me back in an hour.
Unfortunately, that takes a very, very rare conscious individual, and I'm sorry to say they do not exist in this era. This doesn't happen.
No, they do.
It's just where they at. Show them to me. Name one.
You know what, Gene? You know what,
One
Gene?
person.
You know what, Gene? You know what? Maybe they don't exist. They don't exist in your circle.
Oh, I think he said.
But
I
in
think
my
he nailed
circle,
it.
But you know what? That's fine. That's fine. I will say that. But it's funny. Those people who bring up these points and seem very passionate about it, they must be speaking from experience. So it's not just me and my friends in my circle.
There's a process when you get old, when you get a certain age.
Well, you know what, Gene?
And there's a thing called growth.
You know what, Gene? There's a thing called growth.
Well, Boogs is not that old, and Boogs is not that old. Boogs is not that old, and
there's a thing called growth, and there's also a thing called filtering. And at a certain point, you don't only filter your water. Sometimes you have to filter your friends, your circle, and the people that you let into your inner orbit. I don't know if that happens to some people after 30, some people after 25, some people after 40, but
So I'm gonna jump in here real quick. Snead, I am very, very, very guilty of what you guys are speaking on in terms of what do you say? Emotional vomiting. Just trying to get Snead on this episode. Was it last night, Snead? Yeah, I think I just went straight to it yesterday. I mean,
yeah, but I don't really think that's a good example.
Well, this one. Some emotional vomiting. All emotional vomit isn't equal. All emotional vomit some is more appealing and fun, and you can play the vomit and be like, oh, I get it, right? And
lighter than heavier. Because what I did is I hit him up, and I was just like, "Are you available at this time?" And then he hits me with, we've done this before. He hits me with the, how are you? And yes, I'm doing fine. And I'm like, oh shit, sorry. But that comes from my personality of just trying to get straight to the point. I am also learning to be more cognizant. And in me realizing, for example, the dynamic between me and the female's friends who want to dump on me at times or feel like they always need access to me, that has brought awareness as to those moments when I kind of do the same. So in some ways, you don't know it until it happens to you. You know what I mean? So now I am cognizant.
And there's a limit. You got to limit it. You can't. They're mostly vomiting on you 5 days a week. Every time they call, it's like, okay, it's like, come on. You're just being inconsiderate. But like, pace it out. Pace your emotional vomiting episodes out. Let's not have it be so.
But when it comes to men and women, I'm just going to bring it back really quickly, and then we'll wrap up this topic. Do you, any of you?
Why are you bringing up on women? Why are you attacking a woman on this episode? You got problems with women? What happened? What woman scored you recently? What happened? Right, what woman hurt you? rubbed you the wrong way.
I'm not attacking women. No. No, I'm joking. But no. What I feel because people see men as, or they perceive that men should not be as emotional as women. One, they feel that women should be the only vulnerable of the two sexes. I do feel
that. You say women feel that way? Is that what you're saying? Let's get more point and specific here. Do you think women feel that men that should?
Twaz, let him make his point. God.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you're saying that because yes, because unfortunately the world we live in is a male ego-driven society. So it can actually program women to believe they should be the only ones that are emotional. So really quickly, this is years ago. This is an old Donahue. And that's
throwback. Just age yourself. I love
Donahue episode. And a throwback, yeah. Well, I actually didn't see it at the time of broadcast. I saw it on YouTube, but in recent times.
But you know who he is.
Yeah, I know who he is. So in that episode, right, it was a Black author. You guys are familiar with the term urban literature. All those like Sister Soldier and a couple others. Yeah, exactly. So this woman was an urban lit author. She was very, I'm going to be blunt. She was hood. She was very kind of hood.
What's her name?
I cannot remember that again. No. It's I really wish I could, but she's not the focus. But you'll see where I'm going with it. So they had a Q&A from the crowd. She had some book that was like a New York Times bestseller for like 2-3 weeks, whatever. Briefly, Do
you know the name of the book? Do you know the name of the book?
I cannot. Don't embarrass me. Stop embarrassing me, but let me finish. So they had a Q&A, right? And it was about the dynamics between men and women and masculinity and femininity and gender roles and all these things. That's really what her book was based on. It was an urban lit macrosm of all these different subtopics. And so this young man stood up to ask a question. I don't remember. Honestly, I don't. So this young man stood up to talk. And then he was kind of contradicting what she was saying in terms of how a man should present himself, right? She turned around and she said to him, well, I can tell that women already beat up on you and probably step on you because, you're so soft-spoken. You can do anything for me. And she's like, who knows? You might not even like women. He wasn't feminine at all. This was just you could tell, very quiet, soft-spoken, laid-back person. And that made me think during that time, here it is, a woman who's been programmed to feel as if the only way a man should express himself is either loudly, aggressively, over assertively. You understand what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is women can also be programmed to think that they're the only ones that can be softer or emotional or have vulnerability. And that's why I'm using that story to your point, Twaz. You understand what I'm saying? So women, yes, they can actually.
I think we should have. But that's why I want the name of this author. We should have her on here. You know what I mean? We should call her out. We should pull her on. We should pull her to the fire.
Why don't you research it? Why don't you research it yourself? Because clearly the man does not remember the author or the name of the damn book.
Oh my God! Well, thank you, Snead, for being my armor and shield for a moment there. But speaking of Snead has what we call a pet topic of his, and I'm going to have him lead into this. This is something we've talked about many times, and he feels strongly about it. So let us know what your thoughts are, Snead.
It kind of segues into like topic of discussion. I'm going to piggyback. What? I'm going to piggyback on that. Because it's like it's not even so much as like they view us as strong people and we're not supposed to show any kind of weakness. There's also an expectation that we are supposed to provide and take care of them like indefinitely. I have a female friend who is in the courting stage of her relationship, and she's already complaining about, well, he ain't taking me out to dinner. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. He's not taking me shopping. He's, just those stuff. I'm just like, well, why is that an expectation? Why do you expect your man to be this strong pillar of strength? He's a human being too, just like you. He has good days. He has bad days. He has things that affect him, on all levels. So why do you think that because he's a man that he's exempt from feeling? And he is his sole purpose. He's not supposed to feel or have any emotions, but he's supposed to take care of you and bend to your every will. It's a very confusing mentality, and I don't understand it. What another thing I don't get is like the overly sexualization of men.
And the black male specifically, right?
And the black male specifically. I just don't. Why does it stop there for us? Why does it stop there? We have to be strong. We have to be like these big strapping men. We have to like invoke and fear and everybody who passes us on the street. We have to have these amazing physiques. I don't know. Like I feel like it's an exhausting expectation. I don't know if anybody feels that way or feel like they feel pressure to having to be this way or having to live up to this, unwritten law. Does anyone feel that way, or is it just me?
I think it's the human condition. I think the opposite sex females have their own set of standards and expectations that are, they feel like they're supposed to live up to. I think it's part of the human condition. I think it's the ball and chain of existence in civilization.
Boogs, I'm gonna ask you something real quick because I met you, years ago in Toronto. And you were very much a lanky, skinny kid, and you are not that person anymore. You've worked out, and you are now muscular. Make me look like the old fat man here. But how has people's perception to you changed, or even within the gay community? Like, how has your life changed based on your aesthetics now, being that you're muscular? You're already tall. So now added muscles to that. How has that kind of changed for you now that you're no longer this skinny, lanky person?
That's a great question. That's a great question. I think that I get a lot more attention than I did when I was skinny. From females too. There is this expectation that I'm, hyper masculine, and I'm not.
I don't mean to laugh, but
was that him who did that Dr. Evil laugh, that giggle? Was that you?
That sure was. So yeah, there's all these, and then we could go further into like sexual gender roles and things like that, but I won't. And at first it was like, oh, this is different because, I transitioned from being this twink, skinny, lanky dude to, I gained 30, 40 pounds of muscle. So in the beginning stages, it was a different avenue of attention, and it was great, right? Or maybe sometimes
I want to see before and after pics. That's what
I'll send you some before.
Can you add those to the episode notes so we can all see?
I'll show you some before pics. So I think that now it's just at the beginning it was great, different attention, different eyes on me. Yeah, great, huge boost in my ego, awesome. And now it's just like I can see it before it gets to me. I can see it coming. I can already tell, the lust in the eyes is for the physique and not the brain. So I now know what questions to ask in terms of uncovering what that person is looking for or their expectations.
It's like,
and I guess that speaks to like evolving and growth. So you're going to ask different questions. You're going to put yourself in different circles, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah.
We had to circle back to that, did we?
Just a little.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're going to get back to that.
No, I'm talking about Boogs.
You know
what I'm talking about.
No,
he knows what I'm talking about. That was specifically for him.
Actually answer my question because I was going to ask him. I was like, "How did it make you feel?" And you actually answered that. You said it was great for your self-confidence and your ego or something.
Mm-hmm.
Did it in any way alter your I guess philosophy, or did it kind of like you let's say felt a certain way or had a certain disposition on certain things? Did it change your perspective in any way? Change your mindset in any way? That's my question to you. When you did this body modification alteration.
he's not transgendered.
No, but body, he went to the gym and modified his body to achieve a certain
Did
aesthetic.
it change my mindset in terms of my mindset in terms of how I see myself through the lens of the world, or like, what do you mean by that exactly?
Go on. Period. Yeah. I mean as opposed to the lens of your own lens or the lens of the world.
I guess it made me
perspective overall.
It made me see that the world, and I guess it goes back to the hypersexualization of men. So it did make me realize that having a muscular stature, muscular physique is going to get more attention. I'm going to walk in a room and I'm going to be seen first.
Yeah, but I have to say this, Boogs, you were pretty confident and very before the body. So I'm a little confused.
Yes,
your confidence was very, very
got
high.
more confident.
Boogs, the real question I asked you, what did you learn? You said you learned this about society. What did you learn about yourself?
Wow, I feel like I'm being put on the spot.
We're sharing here.
You
is a
need
safe
a moment.
space.
Wait. Y'all gonna hate me for this. You need a drink?
Yeah, I need a drink and a blunt. What did I learn about myself? I don't know. Twaz, I guess I learned what I always knew. I was confident.
Therapy session, y'all. Therapy session.
Yeah, I don't think I have the tools and resources to answer that question in just 5 seconds.
I actually have a question. How was the transition for you? Because once you
wait, hold on. Could y'all stop saying transition in case you make me think?
Well, when I say transition, let's be clear. In the community, there's different
the process.
There's different groups. When you get a body or you start to do the little personal upgrades, it takes you out of one pool and it puts you into another. Your friends change, just everything changed.
Facts.
How did you handle that? Because
I don't think any of those things changed for me. My friends are still the same. I'm still in the same circle. I still move the same way. As you mentioned before, I was confident prior to. So none of that changed for me.
Did your talent pool, if you will, or did your talent pool grew, or your options grew as far as
It grew.
Okay, that's all right.
I was at a club one time and I remember thinking, I could have any man in this room I want.
Cheers to that. Right. You just inspired
I'm looking at my
somebody.
stomach right now.
He's doing crunches right now.
Before we continue, there is a subtopic that was the impetus for this particular topic with Snead, and that was the hypersexualization of men, Black men specifically in Hollywood. So, Snead, can you kind of expound on that a little bit?
Sorry, can I just add one thing? Sorry, because I got cut off.
Sure.
So I was going to say, getting more attention and it being physical. So I'd be in spaces and people would want to touch me, right?
Oh, wow.
Specifically other men, which was going into my point, which is Gene's point about the hypersexualization of Black men. And gay men feel like if you look a certain way or you move a certain way, you're close to them, it automatically, the thinking is proximity equates to access. So I would be in these spaces, it could be a barbecue, it could be a club. If alcohol is involved and, they're using their drug of choice or whatever the case may be, and they're feeling, a little lifted, they may strike up a conversation with me and then they will get touchy feeling, which to me is harassment, sexual harassment, and that would be different for a woman than it would be for a man, right? Like we're expected to kind of take it, not speak out against it, and just, bite our tongues as we go through, the objectification, the fetishizing, like all of that has happened to me. I may say, stop, ease up or cringe, but for the most part, I take it.
No pun intended. But real quick, how many of you have seen I May Destroy You?
Yes, I've seen it.
I have.
So you're gonna talk about Kwame, right?
Kwame, there you go. I couldn't really remember the name, but that opened my eyes because I never thought about that, like sort of male. To me, I tend to think of rape as like being like actual people are naked, clothes have been ripped off. I tend to think of it in a more violent manner versus being violated the way he was in that episode. So what you're saying to me is actually remind me of that episode, and that definitely blew my mind.
Yeah, because
even the dynamics.
Yeah, he went to the police station to report his incident, his case about being raped, and the police officer literally chuckled at the story, left the room, came back and said, "We'll call you, don't call us," kind of thing. And Kwame, right. He's traumatized once again because now he's been traumatized by, that forced penetration scene that we saw. And then again in the police station where he's trying to report his case on the strength of his friend who's been raped. And now he's re-traumatized because he's not being believed by the system that's been designed to protect him.
Right. So now we're going to take it back to Snead really quickly. So in that scene we had, only because it kind of ties in, because I remember that episode show. Yes. That episode, of course, they showed the guy that was raping him his ass. So what I'm saying is Snead, you've always talked about when a black male is in Hollywood or TV or film and his star is rising, he almost always seems to end up having nude scenes. And you feel like they've reduce these stars to somewhat of just an object to kind of, in my terms, I feel like it's fetishization. But how do you essentially speak to our listeners in terms of how you feel about that specific hypersexualization of black men?
I think you said it. I mean, it kind of reduces them. It's no longer about the talent. It's no longer about the
skills.
The skills. It's about, you're objectifying them as a sexual presence or a sexual being. And I think that it's and it's not just black men, it's black women too.
Isn't that a skill though?
Is it a skill?
That's Marilyn Monroe.
You mean selling sex is a skill? Is that what you're saying, Twaz?
Isn't there a skill to that? Isn't
interesting perspective. Snead, I'm gonna let you have this. I'm gonna let the two of you go at it because I can feel it coming.
Isn't that a muscle to be exercised and to be honed like any other?
If that is your goal,
ask Denzel.
If that's your ask who?
Ask Will Smith. Ask Denzel. Ask Will Smith. Ask Michael B. Jordan.
You think Denzel Washington and Will Smith stepped into the game to sell sex? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think they have been in the game. I think
I don't think those are very good examples. I don't think those are good examples.
More so in their prime than now. Probably more so 20. And more you don't think Denzel Washington was a sex symbol?
Being a sex symbol. Let's just say this: being a sex symbol and being objectified is a thin line. But I think that in this instance, we're talking about two very different things. Okay. So Marilyn Monroe.
Are they totally mutually exclusive? Are they actually really mutually exclusive?
Okay, so let me jump in for a second.
For you to seriously consider, are they actually mutually exclusive? Do they overlap maybe a little bit more than we're all?
And maybe in some cases, yes, I would agree with you. But what I'm speaking about, yet again, is something very different. It's a different thing when people view you as a sex symbol or that you're an attractive person or something about you is appealing versus you always taking your clothes off or doing roles that are always have you pushing out intentional sexual energy or provocative energy.
I think Twaz, the Marilyn Monroes and the Pamela Andersons of the world, they set out to sell sex. Like Pamela Anderson literally morphed her body. She was one of the first ones to do plastic surgery on that caliber.
And Marilyn Monroe didn't morph her body?
No, I'm saying, let me finish, because I know you want to be oppositional, but hear me out.
Not being oppositional, being factual.
Sure. If you want to
what facts are we talking? What facts? What facts? What facts are you talking about? If you want to go with that, if you want to run with that narrative, go ahead. But plastic surgery wasn't. Plastic surgery.
Facts, baby. Marilyn Monroe changed her name, dyed her hair, got a nose job, got a boob job, and became Marilyn Monroe from Norma Jean. So you can't tell me that woman did not transform herself.
But that was let me jump in. That was the Hollywood machine.
Whatever machine. She's a wealthy human being. She had to embody that. She had to create that. Whatever machine can create, she had to create it. She had to embody it.
But that was a conscious decision on her part. That was her doing. It's very different when you make up your mind to go down that path versus being subjected and being forced to do it. It's completely different. So I don't understand what are we talking about here? Like, you can add all these variables and these different scenarios to the situation. Yeah, I get it. And certain conversations that would apply, but it doesn't apply to what I'm talking about. So I think we're getting a little off the subject.
We'll bring it back.
Absolutely.
What's your point?
Well, the point, my point has already been made. And I think Boogs was actually talking and you were interjecting as usual. So can you finish your point, Boogs?
And Twaz is busy being oppositional and talking about facts. So he's not allowing us to make our points, which is...
This back and forth with facts, baby. That way I won't have to... piggyback off a fact. And that way we could all come to a point.
Didn't he just do that when he just said Marilyn Monroe, Pamela Anderson made those choices?
And who didn't?
Those choices were advantageous to them. They changed their bodies because...
And who did it? In opposition to who did not? Who was forced? Who was forced to be a sex symbol and against their will and all that? Who are you opposing to? You're saying they did that. Now who did something different? Like, who are you opposing it to? Who are you comparing and contrasting it to, as opposed to who?
I think a good example of a contemporary artist who kind of opposed the sex symbol or the selling sex narrative would be Billie Eilish. Like, she purposely, partially, I think she covered her body because she doesn't have that ideal Hollywood body, slim with the oversized breast and ass. She's just kind of like a regular sized chick, but she's an example of someone going against the grain. Lauryn Hill to some degree, but Lauryn Hill started off as more of a conscious performer. And I think the Hollywood machine, in regards to her having her baby that she talked about in Zion, in the song Zion, they wanted her to get rid of it. A mom is not as sexy as a single woman. All of those things are aspects of the Hollywood and entertainment industry.
Oh, so now I'm going to recording artists. Okay, I thought
But I'm using celebrity.
To add to your point, I think Denzel Washington has definitely a prime example of going against that Hollywood machine.
Agreed. He's never kissed a white woman on screen.
And as far as, he may have had a couple of movies where he's had his shirt off or his shirt open, but if you look at the majority of the body of his work and the conscious effort that he puts in not to put that energy out there and is still considered a sex symbol, I think that he is the perfect example to illustrate my point.
Have you seen Mo Better Blues?
Yes, I've seen Mo Better Blues.
Have you seen Devil in a Blue Dress?
I just said that. Are you not listening? Are you not listening? Are you not listening? Are you just waiting in the wings to come out and drop this foolishness?
You made my point.
I literally just said that. Literally.
So to Twaz's point, I'm listening to all of y'all go at it, and I'm loving every single minute of it. But I will say this. I understand what he's saying, because he's also director, producer, so he sees certain things in a certain way. I do believe there is a level of overlap, because there are some people who naturally are sensual. So, and the Hollywood machine can recognize that and then, of course, exaggerate that and capitalize. Thank you. I think with what Snead is saying is just I'm going to use another perfect example. Yaya, the actor. Whenever like these black men and the women, as he mentioned as well, they seem to be on the rise. Their stardom is on the rise. All of a sudden, it's just all these copious amounts of nudity, and it's just it almost seems like, yeah, we want to sell you. You're great. You're skilled, but we need you to be naked. That'll make you more popular. Right. It's like, I think that's what Snead is saying.
And rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman didn't have to do any of that.
Well, yeah,
Chadwick Boseman versus Michael B. Jordan.
We talked about Yeah, I was gonna say we talked to Boogs had mentioned that he said Boogs had said when we talked about Chad that he wasn't really a sex symbol per se. They were trying to shape him into that, but he's not. He doesn't sell sex the same way, say Michael Jordan maybe or someone else. So but I do think that I do believe that, and I'm with Snead on for the African American or Black, the Brits included, for the Black artists and celebrities and / actors and whatnot. I do believe we are kind of reduced to sexual objects. So let's just segue slightly. And I know, Twaz, you were like, why are we going into musicians? But I'm going to use this as a perfect example. Look, I've just saw the cover art for Megan Thee Stallion's album cover. And I was like, oh God, again, she's basically naked behind a newspaper. And I'm like, I'm not surprised because she's not selling anything different. But in my head, I look, you look at Nicki Minaj and the last album cover, whatever the album was called, where it's just two pasties on her oversized tits. And it's just, and I'm like, every single, or the majority of our popular artists who hit the top 40 who are Black and do like quote unquote urban pop music, the females especially, again, reduced to just tits and ass, copious amounts of tits and ass. The white artists, you never see a Katy Perry doing that, really. You never see, well, she doesn't really have the body for it. What's her name? Taylor Swift doing that.
Okay, so it's funny that you said those. You name white women who don't have bodies like Black women.
And this is why we're saying that maybe because of our physique, we're overly sexualized. We don't necessarily want to be.
It is, because remember, those same white women that you mentioned, maybe not those specifically, but those white women who have those body types will go under the knife to get our bodies and then do what we did or are doing. Like, we have to remember that too. They will pump their lips. They will pump their, Brazilian butt lifts.
Kim Kardashian.
Their ass, their lips, their noses, to reshape it, reform to look like a Black woman. And some of them are even doing tanning. I believe Ariana Grande does tanning to make her skin look dark. So, and then they want to look like,
ain't she? Like,
Italian is white.
No, they got Sicilian. Have you seen some Sicilians? They be, yeah. I'm gonna leave it as that. But I know what you mean. Though.
No. Yeah, so I was just saying, like, those, Megan, I get it. Nicki Minaj from Little Kim, right? I think Little Kim was the first female musician, I guess you want to say, to
that would be hip hop, because Janet was doing the naked thing.
Oh, okay, Kim. Yes, yeah, you're right. So Janet, and going on to Little Kim, and now Nicki Minaj and Megan Thee Stallion. And I mean, if you ask it's a shame we don't have a woman to speak to the woman's point of view on this, but from the women that I've spoken to, they say that what these rappers or these women in the industry are doing is they're taking the power back from being sexualized. It's their body, they're owning it, kind of thing. And that's the reasoning behind why they continue to do it. Whether I agree or not, it's not for me to agree or not. I'm not supposed to police them. But white women are trying to do it as well. So I think that's they just can't, because they don't have the body. So they go on by.
Yeah. What is this thing about policing women's bodies and hairs and hair and whatnot? It's just modern times. You know how people talk about don't be judgmental, or who are you to say this or that? To me, if you put something out in the universe, expect to be judged. Because, one of the things and yes, we're segueing slightly away from the topic again, but I feel like people do not understand human beings are written to be communal. We are connected. Whether we say to ourselves, oh, I'm an individual and I don't give a what the rest of the world thinks, we really do. That's why we do the things we do, because we're written to do that. In nature, we are written to be part of a community, whether that community is just our neighborhood, our families, or our city, or our country. You know what I mean?
Okay, if you think about it, it's judgmenting, policing, you being in somebody else's business. Nobody likes that.
Did you say judgmenting? Is that a word?
He did, but let's move on. Yeah, judging.
Did you say judgmenting? I love it.
Listen, Boogs had a long night last night. Let's be sensitive. Let's not judge.
Let's not judge
Right.
him.
He gets a pass.
Let's not judgment Boogs.
We're not going to judgmenting. We're not going to.
I meant to say judgmental.
But Boogs, do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying though? If you put something out in the universe, like expect a reaction. Like I feel like people are policing ironically and oxymoronically.
No, and people want a reaction, but everybody want the reaction that they want.
And sometimes you don't get it.
You gotta
realize we don't all like if bitch. If you want, excuse me. Oh, I might have to cut that out. If you're walking around with your tits out, I'm gonna judge you a certain way. You can't tell me, oh, this is for you. No, you want the goddamn attention. Sorry, I mean, some people might hate me for that, but yeah, it's just not. You can't put shit out in the universe and not expect a reaction from the world because
I think it's a case by case situation.
Let's be realistic here. I'll never forget my sister a couple of years, maybe several years ago, got on Facebook and started going heavy on Facebook, and she put something on there that I didn't like, and I left a comment on it, and she called me and said, or posted a comment and said, "Mind my business." And I said, "But you posted it on Facebook." So like you can't post it on Facebook and then I say something that you don't agree with, something to mind my business. It's just like people, you put it out there, it's out there. It's out there for us to consume.
Yeah, and you know what else I don't understand about the social media world and attention and doing things for likes, clicks, and retweets? People who are having a traumatizing situation and will grab their phone and they will hit record and they will be sitting there crying.
Going through it on this video.
I do not understand that. Going and bawling their eyes out. And I'm always watching those videos and I'm like, you didn't want a moment with self? Like you wanted to upload this and share this with us for what?
Let me tell you something. My world could be caving in and you would never know. I'm not putting nothing on social media because I don't like giving people ammunition.
It's a cry for help. It's a cry for help. You know, they're doing that. They're doing it. They want, they're crying out for help.
So you want 20,000 people to call in and check in to help you out.
They give you the prayer emoji. Oh, it's going to be okay. Got to protect you. Oh, if you need anything, just let me know.
And now what the kids are doing, they're having some money financial woes, they getting on there and putting their cash out too. So it's like, if you want to help this situation.
I ain't got no problems with that part. Right. Like run me my bag.
I got some problems, but you can help me on this cash out.
Right. Oh my God. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me once again. Of course, this was another episode of Double Bind. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Welcoming back Boogs, my co-host, and my guest co-host, of course, Twaz and Snead checking in. Don't forget to follow us and listen to us via multiple social media platforms and streaming platforms as well. So check in next week, and we'll talk to you guys later.